Somebody just wrote in last week and said, I want to go to Coronado, Panama. Can you give me some pointers on negotiating? And I had to say, look, if you want to go right there in the middle where all the expats have been going for years, because the first step is finding out what is the local rate, and just staying out of the tourism won't tell you what the local rate is. You won't ever know. Meaning just showing up where everybody's going now, branching out. We're still abroad. We're here in Poland, and we're sitting here making arrangements to rent a house. And I do this. I cover it in our course that we have, how to rent a house abroad, even if you're not there in the country. And so we're doing this, and I'm discussing and asking questions about the house in an attempt to come together with a win-win proposal to get the house. The house needs, one of the bathrooms not finished, blah, 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 this and that. And so I'm trying to work it out with a negotiation, right? Which I cover also in the course on how to do this. So you don't get taken advantage of, you don't lose your deposits, you don't lose your money. All of the things that we do and have been doing, have always talked about in our videos, and other things like not paying more than the going rate. That if you don't have the commitment, if you haven't set it up in your mind that I'm serious about doing things at a local pricing structure, and most people just aren't going to have that level of commitment to want to do that. But for those of you that do, if you want an environment of support and this kind of thing, check us out. Somebody just wrote in last week and said, I want to go to Coronado, Panama. Can you give me some pointers on negotiating? And I had to say, look, if you want to go right there in the middle where all the expats have been going for years, you can negotiate, but it's a different scenario than doing it by being in a regular neighborhood. Like here in Poland, you've got areas that are super high in demand from travelers, even though they may not be retirees. There's huge demand from what people refer to as digital nomads, or people that work online and such. And so the real estate prices here are really out of whack in comparison to everything we talk about. So anyway, I went to this morning to talking about all the issues that are romanticized, and you've got all these starry-eyed people, and we want to encourage you to do something that you really want to do, which is to go abroad. But we also want you to know everything there is to know, because you see people making videos that are doing things based on what they see on YouTube, and then later you see them totally changing their life. And one of the complaints they have is, well, the things they don't tell you, like I just went to the printer, and we've been back and forth to the printer here in Warsaw, Poland, and I was going to print some stuff off the internet, off my email, some documents, and I got in there. She speaks English. She does speak English, but I went in there, as I always do, and do things, take charge kind of person. You just go in there, you flip it open, the computer, and bada bing, bada boom, it's in Polish. I can't do a darn thing, not a darn thing, and you just feel helpless, and it's like, okay, excuse me, I just need some help printing out a couple of PDFs from my email, and that was last week. So we went back this morning, and it's just habitual. I want to sit down and just print stuff out, and oh, hello, sorry, you have to babysit the foreigners. You got to sit here and come over here and print out my 3 PDFs out of my email. So I was talking to a friend, and I'm going, we're talking about, it's really polarized here in the US right now. You should stay in Poland. And I'm going, yeah, I don't speak Polish. And he's like, well, I didn't speak any Spanish, and I spent so many years in blah blah South America. And I'm thinking to myself, I really appreciate the encouragement, right, from my friends. But remember, we don't do things the standard newbie gringo way. We kind of branch away from our goal is to be in a local neighborhood. And I've said in other videos, if you're uncomfortable doing that, you might be in the wrong country. You really need to give that some thought, because it's super important. If you absolutely feel like you must, and this is, people say how many millions of Americans are in Mexico, but what's the point if they're all in their little gated spotlight, right there, and they're paying US prices for rent because of that? Because remember, you're competing with the big city folks, and from America, because to them it's always still cheap. And then the regular other place, Americans from lower cost of living areas, they get priced out. It's that's always the game, and you know, in these cities. So anyway, yeah, we wouldn't be in a gringo settlement and here in Poland, so we would be in a Polish neighborhood with Polish neighbors, and to not have any language, that's, I mean, that's a bigger challenge than the way that it's looked at. Another thing is people are really too serious when you get on YouTube. It's like, I lived in Latin America for short of a decade, almost 8 years, so it's habitual for me to call foreigners gringos. So if it just slips my mind and I call them gringos, don't waste your time correcting me. There's no correction to make. I know they're not gringos, it's just a habit. If you are new to the channel, that's the reason why you hear me talk like that. I know that Europeans don't refer to foreigners as gringos, so but to me, there always will be gringos. Or we will always be gringos. You know what I mean? The point that I'm making here is that we're foreigners, and we are treated like foreigners. I'm all for learning the local language too. So it's not a complaint. I'm just saying, look, these are the challenges that you have to give some serious thought to, and decide, you know, how serious you really are about doing things like that. So, and just to complete the thought process as far as living out in the, you know, with the locals and such, I do enjoy doing that, if at all possible, with at least one or two other English-speaking foreigner friends, or bilingual, whatever the case may be. So I'm not at all advocating isolation, because it can be quite isolating, especially at first when you don't speak the language, can't seem to get anything done because of it, and need somebody to babysit you just because you need some PDFs printed. So I'm fully aware, obviously, of all those issues. And this was in reference to a video we made that was like a part 2 to, is it time to go back to the US? Now, to the fellow that said, oh, you can't run a country like that based on these kinds of principles because you don't have those, you know, it's a melting pot in the USA and so many different kind of people. Well, my first thought is that there are some things that are basic principles that apply to everyone. Here's what I'm saying. I've said in other videos that most of my friends are the type of people, you know, ministers, evangelists, this and that, but I've also had friends for many years that were libertarians, in other words, non-believers. And I have personally seen and witnessed that no matter what someone's belief system, we're actually all created with the same wants, desires, and needs. Really, we are. We all have 5 fingers, and none of the friends I've had that were non-believers wanted their wives to leave them. So we all want the same thing. So, you know, some of these principles, even though people choose not to believe in them, they still apply to everybody. Whether they want to acknowledge that or not is really a personal thing. So that doesn't mean it doesn't apply to them. So the idea is that you're tolerant and respectful of the basic needs, and the discussion was about family values. So, you know, you've got lots of countries that totally respect the sanctity of marriage, the family values, and you know, the fact that when two are joined together, they are no longer two, they are one. And they do not interfere with the sanctity of that relationship by putting all kinds of hurdles and barriers and requirements in front of them, so that you know, people's marriages and families are destroyed, and or citizens are not able to return to their own land, because nobody with family values is going to return to their land and leave their spouse behind, okay? You're addressing a nation that has many unbelievers. People, they may not be super vocal about it, but some people may not be as vocal about it, may not acknowledge where family values originate, but they do believe, or they do at least want the benefits of proper family values, unless there's some sort of distortion, you know, which you do have with some people. But just in normal situations, most people don't want their wives to leave them, don't want their children to be separated from them, and this kind of thing. So it is a universal principle. So I also want to say that when I make a video such as that video, when I make videos that are on really deep subjects, I'm usually very thorough and I cover the subject very, very well. And so 99 out of 100 times it usually is the case that it's the viewer that missed something in the video, but they get a hot button pushed, and so they go off half-cocked and leave these long responses, which are in most cases trying to be respectful. But so what they need to do is just go back, and I appreciate that you're commenting and that you're participating, and that's great in a positive way. But also on videos like that, you will want to go back because there's little things you may have missed, and go back and re-listen to those things that you don't realize that you missed, because actually I covered that issue very well. So that's why I'm saying you may not get, you know, a response that covers your comment point by point, because the points that you made were actually in the video. So that's my point. All right, well, thanks for watching.